What is it that we are doing to cause someone like Bilkis Bano to be raped and her rape to be a valorized performance by people in power? It's because we are the audience. It is with us in mind as voters who like this that this is being done. If we didn't like it, it wouldn't be done. We are a society that is sick to the core, and the BJP is delivering to its electorate what the electorate wants. The three of us joined hands and decided to challenge this release.
The Supreme Court on Monday struck down the remission granted by the Gujarat government to the 11 convicts in the Bilkis Bano gang rape case. Bilkis Bano was gang raped by these 11 men back in 2002 during the Gujarat riots. Several of her family members were also killed by these men, including her 3.5-year-old daughter. In 2022, after the Gujarat government granted remission to these 11 men, they were let out from the jail, in response to which three people decided to join hands and challenge this remission in the Supreme Court of India. I'm joined by one of those three people, Revati Laul, who's a journalist, activist, and author of The Anatomy of Hate. Thank you for joining me, Revati. Revati, you, Subhashini Ali, who is a politician, and Ruprekha Verma decided to join hands and file this petition in the Supreme Court. First, tell me what led all of you to come together and do this.
Well, it was an abomination and a blot on our democracy that our government, sanctioned by the Home Ministry at the center. So this was not just the Gujarat government's clearance, because the Gujarat government in court said that they had to go to the center for assent to allow these rapists and murderers to be freed. And the optics of it is the politics of it, which is they used India's 75th year of independence and the Independence Day celebration to release men who had gang raped a Muslim woman during a hate crime. So, what does that say to us about the government and about justice and about our democracy? These were fundamental questions that go well beyond just Bilkis Bano or a woman. It applies to every citizen. If any government, center or state, decides to disregard or circumvent a court ruling, then it makes a travesty of justice, which is what actually the Supreme Court has finally ruled yesterday, that the rule of law is supreme. So this is the reason that the three of us joined hands and decided to challenge this release. I chose not to meet her because I didn't want to be yet another person who was asking her to describe her story all over again. When I wrote my book, The Anatomy of Hate, she was a part of it because I wrote a book about the fanatics, about people who were part of the mob. And one of them underwent a change. And he underwent a change after having been loosely associated with the mob. And one of the things that caused a big shift in him is when he had a reckoning with reality and he met Bilkis. So I referred to that in my book. I went to a public press conference that she held after when the convicts were, when these 11 men were convicted. But I didn't go up to her separately and meet her because I didn't want to, and I didn't think it was appropriate or necessary to objectify or re-describe this in voyeuristic ways. So I didn't do that.
Hmm. Revati, when these men walked out, like you said, on India's Independence Day, soon after they were garlanded in the VHP's office. And just days later, a sitting BJP MLA called them innocent men, innocent Brahmin men with
Sanskari
sanskars.
Brahmins.
Yes, and with lots of sanskars. That's the phrase he used.
Yes.
So number one, I mean, and to just to be clear, to remind our audience, this MLA was also part of the committee that actually granted remission to the 11 men. How much do you have to say about the complicity of the Gujarat government and largely of the BJP in trying to protect these men? And as a journalist, what do you think the BJP stands to gain from it? Do you think they feel that by supporting these men, they're actually getting more popular? Are they garnering more support? And what does that say about our society at large?
Well, all very good questions. Thank you for asking them. We are a society that is sick to the core, and the BJP is delivering to its electorate what the electorate wants, which is a performance of hate, a grotesque, masterly performance of hate over and over again. Um, even in cases where you see the BJP replaced by, let's say, an Aam Aadmi Party, or in Madhya Pradesh until recently, the Congress, they're also behaving in similar fashion. Um, the Congress under Kamal Nath, shortly after they came to power in Madhya Pradesh, for instance, um, slapped some men with a he like massively extreme charges for allegedly carrying a cow carcass. So it is us, the people, who have to reflect on what is it that we are doing to cause someone like Bilkis Bano to be raped, and her rape to be a valorized performance by people in power. It's because we are the audience. It is with us in mind as voters who like this, that this is being done. If we didn't like it, it wouldn't be done. So, how do we not let this happen again? I think what we've got to do, each of us, Fatima, you, me, and all your viewers watching, have got to tell ourselves that every time we decide that we're going to go to a dinner or a literary event where a former rapist is being feted, or we are going to associate with people who have been part of this megapolis of hate, we have to ask ourselves, are we allowing our democracy to be shattered, and we have to Bilkis the moment. And when you Bilkis the moment, like you Google things, then you have to ask yourself, am I part of the fantasy of hate, or am I helping weaken it? So from now on, whether we support corporates who fund this politics of hate, buy their products, or say, oh, well, I can't help it, I've been called, I must go there. No, we can't help it, because otherwise we are the reason Bilkis was gang raped. What the actors of this hate are doing are giving us what we have asked for. And that is the bald, hard truth that we refuse to look at. When we only pin it on the politician, we are missing why this is being done, which is why that fundamental question you asked is so important. Well, this is being done because we want it, and we have to change ourselves if we want our politics to change.
Now, the Supreme Court, when they decided that they are going to strike down this remission, they said that basically, in effect, the Gujarat government had no right to pass this remission. It did not fall under their purview, and as per the remission policy, and also because of the fact that the conviction took place in Maharashtra. Now, we know that the BJP is the ruling party in Maharashtra as well, uh, which is why I kind of want to get into the details of it, right? Like beyond the fact that we are celebrating what happened on Monday, it is possibly likely that something of this sort might happen again.
I think I'm not going to diminish the light that Bilkis shines on all of us, and that the judiciary has shone a streak of light in a very dark present. But we have to use this correctly, and it's incumbent upon us to use it correctly. And what the judges have done is to lay out the terms and the precedent so that this law cannot be misused. So they didn't just say that because this case was tried in Maharashtra, therefore the Gujarat government couldn't pass this. They also said that the sitting judge who gave the order, it was mandatory to consult him.
Yeah.
Now, even if, let's say, as you were asking, if the 11 convicts decided to, whether if they're found and apparently, like, whether they go missing or not, we don't know. Supposing they're back in jail and they decide to appeal their sentence and go to the court, it is now mandatory, and it's laid out in this Supreme Court judgment, that the opinion of the prosecuting judge in this case in Maharashtra has to be taken. So that is one other layer of deterrence. So what they've done is not just to say this is a travesty of justice and that they've gone to the wrong court or the wrong government. They have also laid out the legal procedures that have to be followed. And that should give us some protection. The other protection lies with each of us citizens becoming active citizens and realizing that every single day we make choices about what we fund, what we buy, what we support, who we fraternize with, and all of those things add up to weakening our democracy and judicial system or strengthening it, causing us to turn into voyeuristic um, holders of hate, or people who decide that we've had enough and we want to dismember this politics of hate. It's been provided to us, again, I will repeat, because we want it.
Yeah. Revati, Bilkis, after this Monday judgment, she put out a very heartfelt statement where she basically said that she wept tears of relief. But there is one part of the statement that I would really like to highlight, and I'm quoting her here. She said, I have said before and I say again today, journeys like mine can never be made alone. I have had my husband and my children by my side. I have had my friends who have given me so much love at the time of hate and held my hand at each difficult turn. I've had an extraordinary lawyer, Advocate Shobha Gupta, who has walked with me unwaveringly for over 20 long years and who has never allowed me to lose hope in the idea of justice. Revati, how important is it for ordinary folk like yourself, like other people who watch things like these happen and then they say, oh, you know what? There's not much we can do. I mean, you decided to file a petition, right? The three of you came together. I mean, for an ordinary person in India, even considering even a small legal battle related to their own personal, civic, domestic issues is seen as such, involving such great red tape, right? Why should I have to go through this hurdle? And more importantly, what if I don't get anything out of that, right? Like, I'm sure you weren't absolutely confident that this verdict will go in your
No,
favor and in
no.
Bilkis'
I
favor.
always imagine the worst and I'm pleasantly surprised if it turns out in our favor. I didn't
Yeah. So
expect it.
so how do you get over that? How do you get over that mindset and say that look, I'm going to get into this regardless of what the outcome is?
I think step by step, I think we have to stop expecting absolutes or miracles. We have to chip away at everything one by one. You know, my colleague and I started a foundation in Shamli, Uttar Pradesh called the Sarfaroshi Foundation in order to work against the discrimination, gender, caste, and religious discrimination. And my colleague said a very important thing. He said, you know, when you chip away at a rock and each blow of the axe, it might take a million blows before the rock splinters, but is it the last chipping of the axe that led to the splintering of the rock, or the first? Or should, when the first splinter happens, say, oh, this had no impact, do anything, you know? Or do you keep on chipping away at it? I think we've got to just keep at it, and in small ways. It doesn't have to be big dramatic things all the time. As Hannah Arendt said when she was describing Nazi Germany as an intellectual and as a Jew herself, and she was trying to look at why the Jews were hated so much, and she talked about the banality of evil, how it's broken down into the everyday, how hating a Muslim is part of the everyday, othering a Muslim, seeing them as people who are different from the mainstream, and that the mainstream is Hindu, the subliminal messaging that every day has to break down, and we have to normalize difference in order to change this. So those are things that we can work on, and they're not big fat, let's file a big case in the Supreme Court. You know, it's the everyday actions that lead us away from this hate. We have to take small incremental steps each day and give that rock, come down with the axe on that hard rock, and you never know if it's the millionth or the billionth blow that will splinter this rock of hate. But we have to just keep at it.
Revati Lal, thank you so much for speaking with me.